All right, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens' new receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, someone who at his peak was like a top 2 or 3 receiver in football, but is 32 years old. We did see him get traded to the Chiefs and have some success, like the Tampa Bay game earlier on. This was his second game with Kansas City, and we really thought that he was going to have quite the impact, really, with this play, where it's going to start off, it's not even that crazy of a play, just trying to get into a gap in coverage over the middle. Like, watch, you're going to see that Mahomes takes the snap, and as of right here, so doesn't really get that open. Mahomes is under pressure. It's going to be kind of a crazy decision by Mahomes to just sort of throw one up in Hopkins' area. But as you see, Hopkins would somehow find a way to come down with this ball. He tracks it so well, and kind of, I think Hopkins at his peak, and even now, is sort of known for his ability to make these tough contested catches. And certainly at his peak, that's what he was known for. And hey, with some of the quarterbacks he had throwing to him in Houston, like every pass was a contested catch, and he was finding ways to make it work. But he had some other good moments like this one where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup against a Tampa Bay depth corner, but still, okay, one-on-one matchup essentially. Let's watch what happens. So this play begins, Mahomes takes a snap, and as of right here, Hopkins not giving away just quite yet that he's going to be going over the middle. And then when he cuts, he gets wide open, able to make the grab and get a touchdown for Kansas City. So he definitely had his bright spots, right? He had his good moments, but there's no denying that he was not an elite wide receiver last year. He was not prime DeAndre Hopkins when he was with Kansas City. He ended the year with 610 yards, and he did still start 16 games, so definitely a low point. And speaking of low points, I feel like I'd be remiss a bit if I didn't mention the kind of the play that I feel like he's unfortunately going to be most known for in his time with Kansas City. You see where he is on the field. Mahomes takes a snap. He's going to look in Hopkins' direction. This was just at the end of the half. They're down 24-0. It's a tough spot, but hey, maybe you can get some points on the board and make it a game again. Well, as you see, Mahomes makes this throw and Hopkins does not catch it, and I think that's probably that's the play that he's most known for, unfortunately, in his time with Kansas City. But okay, he made a bad play. Like, he was not the reason they lost that game. There are some other critiques to be had, though, I would say. I mean, if we're just talking playoffs, he did only have 29 yards in the 3 playoff games combined. And like stuff like this is really kind of the key issue, is that he just wasn't getting open consistently. He'd get open on occasion, but not with any real consistency. A play like this, going over the middle here, it's going to be a designed rollout towards the top of the screen. Mahomes is going to take the snap, and he's going to go in that direction. And as of right here, you see that, how open is Hopkins? Just not that open. And again, I mean, hey, with Hopkins, like I said, he's a great contested catch guy. Sometimes you want to just throw one up to him and see if you can make something like this work. Although still, this is not very open. Mahomes doesn't see that Cooper DeJean is there, throws it right to the wrong guy, and ends up throwing a pick 6 there, so that didn't help things. But just in general, I think this is a good play of showing the concerns you might have if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. And again, I think it has to be mentioned, you're not paying Hopkins much of anything at this point. He signed a 1-year, $5 million deal. I mean, that is a depth player option. That is like a wide receiver 4 type contract, maybe even a wide receiver 5 type contract. So they're not paying him a ton of money. So it's not that big of a deal. But if you're concerned about the contract, this is kind of the reason. And like, I think a key example was this play, which again, the Super Bowl got so out of hand. The game was basically over at this point anyway, but this is midway through the third quarter. They're going for it on 4th down, and Hopkins is the guy they're going to trust here. You see, it's going to be a one-on-one matchup against Isaiah Rodgers, who is not a spectacular defensive back for the Eagles or anything like that. He's essentially a depth player. However, here you're going to see that Mahomes throws one and it just, Rodgers is all over it. Hopkins not able to get enough separation to make that work. So again, it's not just like, oh, he didn't have enough chemistry with Patrick Mahomes, because that's not really what I see here. He's not getting open consistently. And again, he's 32 years old. He never was the fastest receiver anyway, so it kind of makes some sense that if that goes down a little bit, well, you're not going to be able to get as much separation, and you have to wonder, is he going to play better with Baltimore? And if so, why exactly? Why wasn't he doing it with Kansas City? So ultimately, how do I view this move as a whole for the Baltimore Ravens? I think some people are going to sit here and say it's a $5 million deal. It's nothing. Why do you even make a video about something like this that's such a minor thing? Or why do you even, ask the question of, is this going to be worth it? I still think it's a fair question to ask because ultimately, well, yes, $5 million, I mean, okay, for most people, that's, life-changing money. That's enough money you can retire. But for a football player and for a football team especially, that is just a drop in the bucket. But you only have so much money, right? And if you're a team like the Ravens who are paying some big-ticket guys, right, like specifically Lamar Jackson, you only have so much of extra money to go around. You can only make so many of these types of deals, and is spending $5 million on what's essentially a flyer, is that a good idea? I mean, again, I think the Ravens wanted to help out the receiving core, and Hopkins is someone who should be able to do that. I don't know if he's going to be more than a role player, but again, they're kind of paying him a role player type contract. And while I would say he's coming off of his worst season as a pro, it's also fair to say just a couple years ago, even with the Titans, he still had some really good moments, and even in this year, had some really good moments. Yes, it is possible that a player who goes to a great situation in Kansas City, maybe it's a great situation, but it's not a great situation for him. That certainly is possible. So while there's not no risk involved, I still feel like the benefits are going to outweigh the negatives here. Another, I think, just interesting factor in all of this that I didn't really touch on is, there's the whole notion of players don't want to go to or really receivers don't want to go to the Baltimore Ravens because you're going to have to block a lot more and you might not get the passing numbers because the Ravens run the ball a lot more, so you might not get the stats that you usually get. It is interesting to me that someone like DeAndre Hopkins, who really probably has all the stats and accolades he needs at this point, and maybe just wants to play for a team that can win a Super Bowl, it's interesting that he is willing to go here. I'm sure he had an offer to stay with Kansas City, and again, it's not like he took a big pay check to come here to Baltimore. Again, big paycheck, NFL speaking wise. It's not like he took a ton of money to come here, so come there. So yeah, I think as a whole, that's an interesting factor as well. Maybe it goes to show his mindset coming into this is that he wants to play because he wants to compete for a Super Bowl. So yeah, we'll see how all of this works, but should be an interesting move for the Ravens and for DeAndre Hopkins. That's what I think about all of it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for watching to the end of that video. I do appreciate it. If you want to see my other channel, Jackson Kruger Movies, where I talk about movies, give some film reviews and stuff like that of a different kind, if that seems like your kind of thing, the link is in the description below for that, as is the link for my Twitter account. I'm at Jackson Kruger, so give me a follow on there if that's your kind of thing. And also, of course, remember to hit the subscribe button on this channel. I do always appreciate it. And thanks again for watching to the end of the video.